Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Chief, Office of Fleet and Asset Management, State of California, Department of General Services, Evan Spear.
Well, good morning. What a great, little technical difficulty. Can everyone hear me now? All right, great. So what a great day to be in sunny San Diego. On behalf of the state of California, I want to welcome everybody to our wonderful state. So I was sitting back in the little green room that we have behind the stage, prepping to come out here, and I heard an interesting fact that about 6 years ago, when Geotab started doing Geotab Connect, they had about 150 people in attendance. And today they have well over 1,500 people today at this conference, which really is a testament to the growing excitement and interest in telematics, and specifically to Geotab's success in this space. So it's great to see so many people show up and be excited about a technology that really, if it does its job well, will show us fleet managers how poorly we're doing our job. So we're idling too much, we're not replacing our batteries in the right amount of time, we're speeding too often, hard braking too harshly, but that is the fundamental reason why we're here, right? Because we understand that the value of having insight and data into our operations and having data to support our decisions is critical to our success. Now, in the spirit of full transparency, I don't have much experience with telematics. The state of California's contract with Geotab was just recently executed. I'd say that right now we're kind of in the honeymoon stage, where we believe that the sky is the limit, anything's possible, and telematics is going to solve all of our operational challenges. Now, while that may not be the truth, I do know one thing for certain, and I'm sure you do as well, that having timely and relevant data to make smart, well-informed, and supported decisions is paramount. So while we may not get all the pie in the sky things that we want from telematics, I know at the end of this, at the end of deployment of this technology, our operations will be better off for it. All right, so for my office, which is really the policy setting and control agency for the state of California's fleet, the policies we develop and implement impact the management of over 50,000 assets with a combined value of over $2 billion. This means that if we don't do our job well, if we don't set policies that are smart, well-informed, and supported by data, we run the risk of mismanaging a $2 billion asset. We run the risk of compromising our state operations, critical operations, and we run the risk of implementing policies that are ineffectual. And lastly, we run the risk of costing the state of California taxpayers millions of dollars. All things that my office is tasked with avoiding. So in our role, there are really three key priorities that we focus on to try and avoid costing those taxpayers millions of dollars or implementing ineffectual policies. One, to make sure each asset is truly needed, to make sure each asset is as green as possible, and once deployed, to make sure that each fleet asset is used in a cost-effective manner. And we truly believe that the deployment of telematics within the state of California's fleet will help us with each one of these key priorities and the associated challenges. Now, to get a better sense or understanding of the challenges that we face, I really want to focus on one, which are our fleet sustainability policies. So in California, we have some of the most aggressive fleet sustainability requirements in the nation, if not the world, and we take a lot of pride in leading by example in pushing these fleet sustainability policies forward. So as you can see on the screen behind me, over the past 7 years, we've had 8 different fleet mandates come down, either from executive orders or legislation that's been passed that falls within my office's responsibility to implement and operationalize. Now, from petroleum reduction goals to light, medium, and heavy-duty zero-emission vehicle adoption. Now, while we've been really successful in meeting our mandates, meeting those mandates has been a challenge and will only get harder as time goes on. And I'm gonna talk about one goal or one challenge in particular. So we have specific light-duty zero-emission vehicle purchasing targets, and by 2025, 50% of all of our new light-duty purchases will need to be zero-emission vehicles. Now, when looking at our data, looking at the composition of our fleet, knowing that 60% of our fleet is comprised of, light-duty fleet is comprised of pickup trucks, vans, and SUVs, the equation to reach 50% gets a little bit harder. Now take into consideration the fact that we have about 4,000 assets that are take-home vehicles. These are vehicles where employees take these vehicles home, they park them at their houses. These are vehicles that have traditionally been off the table with regard to our zero-emission vehicle purchasing policies. We never had insight into how these vehicles would be charged, if they were going to be charged correctly. Now, with telematics, working with Geotab, seeing the reporting, we have a confidence level that we can start approaching these vehicles and start replacing them out as zero-emission vehicles. By using telematics, we can create reports that show missed opportunities. So when somebody's out in the field and they park somewhere for a period of time, and where they parked is right next to a publicly accessible EV charger, we have that report, and we can go back to that driver and say, hey, you have a plug-in vehicle, you need to use it appropriately. Here's the report that shows where you missed these opportunities. Next time when you're having lunch at Panera, how about you park it in that charging spot and let it get 30 minutes to charge while you're eating your food. So those are some of the ways where we're using technology such as Geotab and telematics to really further our policy and help us meet those fleet sustainability goals. So to talk a little bit about our telematics program, like I said initially, we are very early stages of implementing telematics in the state fleet, but we did know early on that we needed to leverage technology to be able to meet some of these goals and overcome some of these challenges. So processing time using our existing manual systems and evaluation of justifications using subjective information was just way too long. So in 2016, in collaboration with the Department of Transportation, California Department of Transportation, we set out to establish a statewide telematics contract that would provide all of the relevant data with a strong emphasis on zero-emission vehicle data aggregation and reporting. So in this solicitation that we put together, and we started, yes, in 2016, many of you work in government and know that it can take a long time to get one of these contracts executed. We really focused on a few key tenets. So it must have robust zero-emission vehicle reporting. Departments must be able to control their own data. So we have 60 different fleet-owning data, a lot of them with sensitive assets. These are law enforcement agencies such as CHP or other agencies that have undercover vehicles. We wanted every agency to be able to control their own data, what data gets reported to us, how we're able to see that data so that we're not compromising any of their operations. We also required top-tier information security protocols. We required full integration with multiple fleet management systems. Many of our fleet-owning departments have different fleet management systems, so AssetWorks. Some of them use old Excel files. I know there are people out here who still do that. And last but not least, we required participation in the California Bureau of Automotive Repair's continuous testing program. Everybody should know this. This is California's smog program, right? The continuous testing program is really kind of an automated smog test. So using technology, instead of requiring vehicles to go in and get smogged either on an annual or biannual basis, telematics data can be sent directly to the Bureau of Automotive Repair, showing them that that vehicle's emissions are within standards and thus exempting that vehicle from having to go in and get smogged. That's a huge time and money saver for a fleet of 50,000 assets such as ours. All right, so where is telematics going for the state of California? So I've given a high-level overview of our mandate and most important use cases for telematics. We're looking at reducing costs, improving reporting capabilities, better enforcement of policy compliance, influence over driver behavior. But we really feel like those use cases are really just the tip of the iceberg. We see so many other potential use cases that go beyond good fleet management and could really have a positive impact on our overall state operations. So for example, improved emergency response capabilities. So telematics is a highly valuable tool in our emergency response capabilities. So if you look at this image up there, this is a map from 2018 of the state of California. These are all the fire incidents that were going on at one time within our state. Now that's a lot of emergencies to respond to. That requires a lot of resources, that requires a lot of planning and collaboration. Now the current situation, as it exists today, where if there's an emergency such as one of these fires or 2018's Camp Fire up in Paradise and Chico area, the emergency occurs, the State Operations Center gets activated, and I usually get a phone call saying, hey Evan, how many fleet vehicles do you have that can be deployed in support of this response effort? And so I start going down my phone tree and reaching out to various state agencies to say, hey, what assets do you guys have available, and do you have any that are located in the response area? Now, that takes time. It takes time for me to locate what assets they actually need. It takes time for me to reach out to these departments and agencies, and it takes time for those agencies to track down exactly where those assets are at. Now, imagine a scenario using telematics. In the future scenario, using telematics, when the State Operations Center is activated, the Governor's Office of Emergency Services can pull up on the screen a map and a dashboard. And they can look at that map and go, oh, I want to circle this area right here, and I want to see every fleet vehicle which is in this geographic area. Run a report on that and see how many vehicles are available to be redirected and deployed in response, in support of that response effort for that emergency. That would save a ton of time. Now take that one step further and involve the local government agency. Through a data sharing agreement with the local government agency using a similar telematics platform, can we combine those two fleets? Can we look and say, hey, coordination between Cal OES, between the state, between CAL FIRE and a local fire agency, see all assets between those two government entities within a geographic region and deploy those in support of that response effort. I think that that's a really cool way to use this technology and would have a great impact on our overall statewide emergency response operations. Another area that I think telematics data will really help with is our increased transparency. We want to use this technology to increase our public transparency so that they have confidence in the accuracy and completeness of our data, so that they know that these vehicles are being used for what they're supposed to be used for. A lot of times in government we have a big shroud between us and the public. They don't actually see what we're doing. They don't know that we are out there working on a daily basis to make sure that every resident within our district is taken care of. Being able to share this information and build that trust, I think, is critical. I would also take this one step further and say that more than transparency, we want to use telematics to increase engagement with the public. What I mean by this is we want publishing of our data to mean something, to have a purpose. We want there to be a value to the public as well as an opportunity for the public to engage with us. So for example, this is California's open data portal. This is a place where state agencies can publish large data files. The public can go there, download these data files, and either just look at them, run analyses. So why don't we use this to harness kind of the collective knowledge that we have out in the state? We can't run every analysis on our data. We don't have the resources, we don't have the capacity. But there are a lot of universities, a lot of really smart people in the state of California that could. So why don't we put this data up there? Obviously with some caveats, I'm not putting CHP's data up there so that Waze and Google Maps can upload it. But why don't we put this information out there and let them do some of these analysis? Let them engage with us. Let them tell us what they want us to do with these vehicles, and let them run some of these analyses and propose some projects, improvement projects to us. Also, one of the ways we want to maximize the value of having thousands of mobile assets on the streets of California is by using these sensors and these communication devices as mobile sensors, as really hyper-localized mobile sensors. So air quality mapping, for example. In the Central Valley and the LA Basin, we have very poor air quality. And on some of the worst air quality days, there will be public health announcements that basically say, don't go outside. We recommend that you don't go outside. And the most affected populations are children who are in school. Maybe they have to cancel recess. But right now we're using air sensors that aren't hyper-localized to the schools. We're using air sensors that are high up, not low to the ground. What if we had air sensors on all of our state vehicles that were driving around these schools that could give a hyper-localized reading to ensure that the air quality around these schools is good enough or isn't good enough, and we need to keep those children inside? And lastly, I mentioned it before, our fleet sustainability goals. We really see telematics as a crucial technology in reaching some of our goals. As I mentioned, 24, 25, 50% of all of our new light-duty purchases must be zero-emission vehicles. Now, this box represents the cutoff lines where we start on a department-by-department basis, based on fleet composition, not being able to meet these goals. And if we don't have a tool that identifies every opportunity to replace a vehicle with an internal combustion vehicle with a zero-emission vehicle where possible, we will not meet that 50% goal. It just won't happen. We need to have a tool that gives us the backing when we go to our departments and mandate that they purchase a certain vehicle, to show them that it is possible that that vehicle be driven as a zero-emission vehicle over an internal combustion, and take advantage of every single opportunity to replace a vehicle with a zero-emission vehicle. So with that, in summary, we see a multitude of opportunities, not just at the fleet level, but at the state operations level as well, to ensure better policy compliance, better serve the residents of California, and save the state and taxpayers money. We really believe that the deployment of telematics into our fleet will fundamentally change how we operate for the better. I want to thank you all for your attention and time, and I want to thank Geotab for the opportunity to speak today.